Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Had a flurry of people overnight send me this story from WWL out of Louisiana. And this is a twist, and that's the thing about scams. Scams evolve over time. Well, some do. I still get the Nigerian prince email. Okay, that one has not evolved. It's like a dinosaur. But here's one. Scammers are taking out home loans without the owner knowing it. Now you're going to say, but Steve, I've heard of that before. Well, the scale at which it's happening and the exact way they're doing it is a little different. So David Hammer wrote this for WWL. So this man and his wife in the story grew up in New Orleans, met at Tulane, and sent their daughter to their alma mater. A quarter century after moving away to Minneapolis, they bought their forever home uptown and decided to retire back in the Crescent City. Their dream was nearly derailed earlier this year by something that looked like typical junk mail. He almost threw it away, but then he looked at it, and it was from a California lender. So he's thinking it was a solicitation for a home equity loan. He opened it up, and it was actually paperwork for a loan taken out in his name without his knowledge to cover all of the new construction on his home, doors and windows, that never happened. So it turns out that that lender had paid a construction company directly without any proof of any work being done. They just took the word of somebody that the work was done and paid them directly $45,000. If it didn't happen to me, I'd sit back and think, boy, this is ingenious. So WWL Louisiana has learned that this lending company accepted more than 36 loan applications with New Orleans property owners' real names and addresses, but automated signatures and fake social security and telephone numbers. Law enforcement sources confirm that this lender paid loans for at least 20 applications directly to a contractor based on automatic signatures from an owner of that contractor. So now the lender says it's a victim of fraud and is working with the FBI field office in Sacramento. But property owners say that the lender failed to perform basic due diligence to confirm their connections and the personal information before releasing the money to the construction company. And then the construction company was doing what's called a UCC lien on the properties, liens that prevented some of them from taking out legitimate loans or selling their homes. And so now they keep referring to a UCC lien. The Uniform Commercial Code, something I talk about quite a bit. All 50 states have adopted it. Louisiana has adopted a version of it with a few more modifications than most other states. However, usually when you hear the phrase UCC lien, it's often referring to when somebody buys a big piece of equipment, either a construction equipment or huge like machines for factories. Quite often those things aren't titled and registered the exact same way that automobiles are. But because they're so valuable, it makes sense that there's got to be some registration somewhere so you can put people on notice that, by the way, I lent the guy the money to buy that bulldozer. And so the UCC has a process whereby you can file a lien on that thing you sold somebody, and there's usually an office in your state capital, here in Michigan, it'd be in Lansing, where you can file a UCC lien on things like that, okay? So I'm not sure if they're saying that the UCC lien here is being done the exact same way, but we also know that generally speaking, if somebody lends you money and you agree to put your home up as collateral, they can get a lien against your property. And now if you've already got a mortgage, for instance, with a lender, they might get in line behind the initial lien, but they would be liening your property that way. But they keep referring to UCC liens here, so there might be something a little different here. So to protect consumers and the lender itself, the lender has an extensive due diligence and fraud prevention process, says the executive vice president for communications of that company. They are also a victim of this fraud, and we certainly regret that these innocent consumers were also swept up in the fraud. So meanwhile, they say that the lender was victimized by a highly sophisticated group that appears to have the ability to create or obtain fraudulent Social Security numbers, then associate those numbers with innocent property owners. Now, the lender has canceled 20 UCC liens in New Orleans alone since August. The rep from that company said the lender has canceled all loans it identified as fraudulent, but declined to say how many there were specifically associated with this one particular contractor. And so they also would not say how much money that particular contractor had gotten from them. But it appears that the contractor used more than one lender to collect bogus home improvement loan proceeds. So another woman here found out that the contractor collected $45,000 in a loan from the lender to put solar panels on her house using a fake application using her maiden name. Not only did she not get solar panels, but she discovered a UCC lien for new floors and other home improvement work she didn't get. So apparently they did it once for the solar panels. It worked. They did it again for floors and other home improvements. She said she then found out another California lender had also paid the contractor for part of a bogus loan. She managed to get the lender to cancel its lien in August, and the other one canceled its lien last week. But she said, it's taken a lot out of me. Real estate fraud has been on the rise this year, with scammers using automated signatures to falsify deeds and attempts to sell properties out from under the rightful owners. But real estate attorney Lauren Griffin said UCC liens are a new kind of fraud we haven't seen before. So an attorney down there agrees with me, at least on that. She said a lawyer at New Orleans-based Crescent Title said she got a call this summer from a client about one of these lenders' loans and a lien that he didn't even know about until another victim called to warn him. Fraudsters are trying anything they can right now, she said. The first warning in that case came from a property owner who researched the Orleans Parish property records, then spoke to 8 others who all said they had UCC liens on their properties placed by that one lender and in favor, or after work was done allegedly and monies paid to that one contractor. That's all throughout the story. And of course, the work was never done. So, it's great work if you can get it. You file some paperwork and say you did the work and you get paid. Hey, get $45,000 for filing paperwork. Again, if that was your real job, it pays well. So the one homeowner says if it hadn't been for somebody writing her a letter to warn her, she might not have known about the loan or the other loan, both of which were placed on her property without her knowledge. I figured I couldn't possibly be the only victim, said the man who didn't want to give his full name because he filed a police report and he's concerned for his safety. It's really galling that somebody can get away with this so easily. Meanwhile, some of the victims say they've been interviewed by the FBI, and the FBI has said that they cannot confirm or deny any investigations taking place. But right now, I believe there's probably reason for some of these people to get nervous. The FBI is involved in this, and there's obviously a federal issue because you've got money being transferred electronically back and forth. Now, obviously, the state could go after this because there's state laws being broken also, right? And you have most likely a local defendant, but one of the parties is out of state. And the fact that one of the parties is out of state means by necessity you had stuff being transferred electronically out of, across state lines, and that'll get the feds involved. So, we've heard about these kinds of scams. The most common one that we hear about for a while there was the one where people would go to sell their home or buy a home, and somebody would hack into the email at the bank or the title company and trick somebody into wiring the funds to the other side of the planet. And then it's hard to get the money back. And we've heard about that quite a bit. That's a fairly common one. But this is a new one. And the scary part here is that this could happen to the average person who would not know it. Because how often do you check to see if there's clouds on the title to your property? Most people don't check until it's not too late, but until it's going to cause a problem. So you go to sell your house, you find a buyer, they're doing the process for the closing, and they go, hey, you've got this second lien on your property. What's that all about? Now, you can pay it off at the closing. Why would you pay it off? It's not your debt. And so there's that problem. Now, they talk in the story here about how they are taking steps in some places to allow people to notify the clerk or the register of deeds to have that entity contact you if something happens to your property, to put you on notice. Not every place is set up to do that, and until they are, there's not much else you can do, okay? But you go to sell your property and they go, oh, we found this cloud on your title. That could interfere with your ability to sell the house. Let's suppose you went to borrow money. You thought, well, I got this mortgage either paid off or darn near paid off. I'm gonna take out a second mortgage, and they go, well, you've already got a second. You mean you want a third? No, I don't have two. What are you talking about? No, it turns out you had another one there too. So it's a weird twist. And I think that the problem here simply is if you bought a house in the last 10 years and bought a house, say 30 years ago, the two transactions are wildly different from each other. And I remember in the old days, I'm talking beyond 30 years ago, okay, where you go to a closing, you got a stack of paper like this, you do all this stuff with it, or 3 days before that, they give you the stack of paper to review, then you show up at the closing, tons of paperwork, tons of stuff, but it's all being done in person. And nowadays, a lot of it is being done over the internet. Someone emails you a document, you open it up, you sign it electronically, you send it back. And it's not that difficult to realize that, oh wait, this is all just being done, and the computer doesn't know who I am. I like to think it does, but I don't think it does. And so anybody can claim to be anybody on the internet. So all you got to do is you apply for a loan. You're using an email address. So of course, all the stuff's going to go back and forth between the email address and the lender. So, they're going to have to do something about this. So what it's going to take is going to take the Register of Deeds entities that track this stuff. They're going to set up systems where they're going to say, do you want us to notify you if a lien gets placed on your property? And most people say, yes, I'd like to know that. Thank you very much. But of course, they have the paperwork for your property. They don't have your contact information with respect to, like, say, an email address, most likely. So they're going to have to set that up. Otherwise, stuff like this is going to keep happening. But meanwhile, the FBI is involved. It's unclear what's going to happen or how long it's going to take. But somebody out there made a bunch of money off this. And I wonder what the construction company's going to say. Did they get the money? Or were they being fleeced also? You never know. So a bunch of people sent it. Thank you very much. David Hammer of WWL wrote that. Scammers are taking out $45,000 home loans without the owners knowing it, causing all kinds of problems. Questions or comments, put them below. Otherwise, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Everyone has a different idea of happiness. Follow your own path, not someone else's.